As part of efforts to ensure free, fair and credible elections in Nigeria, political parties that of course participate in such elections are allowed to appoint one party representative to a polling unit during elections. Now, what is their role? That's the role of these party agents in such elections. What are they expected to do? Just observers? No, for some, of course, they know is to protect the party's interest. Well, how trained are these polling agents in their duties? We will be taking an in-depth look at these issues and more. My name is Blessing Abu. Welcome to Nigeria Today. Yes, I'd like to welcome two familiar faces now on our programs, or some of our programs. I'd like to welcome first Esther Uzoma. She's an election observer and also a legal practitioner, first legal practitioner, of course, beside other duties that she does from time to time. Esther, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
Yes, the next face, public affairs analyst, Jide Ojo. Happy New Year, both of you. Actually, I'm seeing you for the first time this year, so great to see you.
It's a pleasure.
Great health. And it's a prosperous year for us.
Yeah.
Okay, talking about prosperity, people like to see how we're faring as we drum up for elections 2019. And for this particular group, we're interested in them because we know they're everywhere once it's election time, especially on the very day of election. People get to find them hobnobbing, moving around, but what exactly, or who exactly is a party agent or a polling agent, as some clients want to call that? Yes. Esther?
Thank you very much, Blessing. A polling agent or a party agent, therefore, are those persons appointed by the party or a candidate in an election who have been duly accredited to man polling units. Their duties do not, there are also such persons who observe processes that precede elections, like continuous voter registration. Very well. So they are called polling agents or party agents, depending on the specific rule. But the most important, the defining element of such persons is that they are accredited by INEC on behalf of a political party or a candidate. Okay,
so is it by act or law?
Yes, the law. Yes, it's a legal provision. The Electoral Act, various provisions, Section 45, Section 64, Section 65 of the amended Electoral Act makes provision for and then of course INEC guidelines, makes provision for the position of a polling agent and what is expected to do.
Okay. Did I know from time to time you write about, well, at least of late, you've been writing more about the electoral process and so many other things that is expected. Now, what are the expectations of these individuals? One said, okay, they are backed up by law, and of course, they have to be accredited to actually man such posts on such days. Now, what does it take to be chosen as one, or what presents one to be qualified to stand in such?
Well, there are no specific legal provisions in the Electoral Act or the Constitution, to the best of my knowledge, as to say these are what qualifies, qualification for as a polling agent. Just like there is not written as a qualification for election observer. It is recognized by Section 45, like Esther has said, that within not later than 7 days to the election, political parties are to submit names of their polling agents to the electoral officers at the local government levels. That is one. But in terms of their role, there are ascriptions in the law as to what role they are supposed to play. Now, they have the right, according to Section 43, subsection 3, they have the right to observe the entire electoral process, right from the distribution of election materials to polling unit to collation centers. They have a right to deploy an official polling agent, an accredited polling agent, to man those different electoral process. That's one. Two, they have a right to also challenge a voter if they have sufficient ground to suspect that that voter is not or should not vote at that polling unit. That's what Section 50 of the Electoral Act says. It says that a candidate or a polling agent can challenge the validity or otherwise of a voter. For instance, I can only hazard guess because that section is also very vague on what ground you can challenge. But I would say from experience, if you suspect somebody to be an underage voter, for instance, or a foreigner, or peradventure the person is impersonating, maybe he's not the owner of the card which he has come to present to want to vote, you can challenge on those grounds. You know, ordinarily,
even if the person is not of that agent's party.
Yes, if you are not even of that party. The point is that you are a voter. And a voter, there are things that qualify you to be a voter. You cannot register in Gariki and want to come to Buhari to vote. You will vote where you have been penciled to vote. So even if you have a valid permanent voter's card and you go to the wrong polling unit, a party agent or a polling agent can challenge the fact that, yes, you are the one, we can see you, the PVC is valid, but you are not supposed to vote here, or that you are underage, or that you are an alien, or that you are impersonating. On those grounds, you can challenge. That's what Section 50 says. Then when you look at Section, there's another section, I think the 63(4) thereabout, that also talked about the right of a polling agent to challenge result of election, as to say that there should be a recount. They can ask for a recount of election, but it can only be done once. So they have a right to challenge that. Then when you look at Section 74 of the Electoral Act, they have a right to countersign the result of election and get an official copy. So these are some of the very critical roles that they are supposed to. So majorly, once you have to be accredited, like my sister here said, according to Section 45, you are supposed to submit your name, or the party is supposed to submit names of their observers for accreditation by INEC. 2, you have a right to represent the interest of your party either at election distribution centers or at a polling unit or at different collation centers. And there are several collation centers, don't forget. You can be a ward collation center polling agent, or local government collation center polling agent, or state collation center polling agent, or national collation center polling agent. So you have a right to be at all of that. Then you have a right to also challenge or the result that maybe there was a, in fact, I've seen polling agents that challenge the validity of a particular ballot paper to say that there is a double thumbprint, or that this ballot paper is valid or invalid, and all of that. They have a right to do that, and of course they also have a right to demand for recount in the event that there is a dispute. Maybe they didn't hear very well, maybe they felt there are some manipulations going on. So
they can actually challenge that.
There's another critical, just before you ask. Goodluck Jonathan, the former president, signed an amendment, and he inserted Section 65. He created an entirely new Section 65. Under that 65, polling agents are entitled to escort the results to collection centers. That is very critical, because before now we hear stories of they were on their way to the local government headquarters and then something happens. Another thing that is extremely critical at the role of a polling agent is this: you must watch keenly as a polling agent, just like Jide said. Look at all the things you have power to do. So how does overvoting occur, for instance, when there are agents at the polling units? How?
So that brings us to critical questions such as how well trained are these polling agents, and how much of such education did they even get? Because you were saying something about not later or before 7 days.
Yes.
Is that not a short time to actually...
said that they have to do that within 14 days, not later than 14 days. That's what INEC chairman said on Monday, that they are to submit their party agent list to the commission, because the law says not later than 7 days. It can be earlier. It doesn't have to be exactly 7 days.
Okay, so over time, both of you at least have been privileged to actually monitor elections, at least in the past. How have you seen the role of such agents?
Well, at least I'll give you an example. I was in Anambra for, party to observe elections. Way back in those days when accreditation was done before actual voting. So when I went to a particular polling unit in the morning, the agents that appeared for a party during accreditation, in the afternoon, those agents became agents of another party.
Wonderful.
I'm telling you. We flagged this, situation room flagged this to INEC. Why is that? Because of the quality of accreditation they are given. It's something that they can just go to a business center and do. You just place a card, put it on. So there's no, it's very easy for them, to change allegiance, to switch allegiance. And as per their training, it is ordinarily within the purview of political parties to train whoever wants to represent them. But they just leave it at that. Oh, INEC. If you are a stakeholder in an election, if you have deployed men and resources, the least you can do is to get committed people to watch over your interests in polling units. It's very, very critical. So, but what we find out is that as if the party agents, they just wait for where the wind
is going to blow.
Exactly. And then they just it's amazing. They switch allegiances.
All right, Jide, what's your own experience? What activities, the nature of such polling agents that we've had in the past, and what we have today, or what we're looking out for today?
Incidentally, on Wednesday, in my column in The Punch, I actually wrote an entire piece on this issue of polling agents and integrity of elections. And I made several observations. First is the fact that, like Esther pointed out, the quality of accreditation badges is nothing to write home about. In fact, many of them will not submit their list to INEC. What they simply do is to accredit themselves. So what they do is that they look for they do the logo and the name of their party, laminate it, put a tag, and then stand at polling unit and say that I'm the polling party agent. They don't have formal registration with INEC. You won't find their names, because you see, for the integrity of that process, like when we are accredited to observe election, it comes with not only the organization that is sponsoring our participation, but our name and pictures. Biometrics is put there, so it cannot be. It cannot, and you cannot switch. Exactly. You cannot swap those badges, because if I give you my badge and somebody who is very observant looks at it, where can you? You are not. But where you just have AMPP on the and the symbol of AMPP, I can give it to you. Automatically you become an AMPP candidate. And you know what they do? They do it, print this bogus tags in order to have unfettered access on election day to move about. So they just transfer it to one another. So that is one. Two, training. They have left the training more to the election management body and civil society to do for them.
Right. We shouldn't be.
We shouldn't be. They are the ones that are supposed to train their own party agents and tell them, give them stern instructions about what they are to look out for during elections. INEC is doing it. INEC will do it. It has said that they are going to train the party agents in the lead up to 2019 election. But even if INEC does, you are supposed to have, even if it's 1 day induction, to take them through the routine of what they have. Legal officers. Political parties are supposed to have legal officers.
Anyway, gentlemen and of course lady, when we return from this break, we're going to in a break now. Earlier on, we sought the views from the street as well to know if the people actually understand the role that are supposed to be playing, and how this relationship is going to come on well for election day. We'll be finding out. Now that we have 91 political parties, initially we're contending with some particular number. Now we have 91. Imagine the gathering of 91 polling agents in one location. You're watching Nigeria Today, and we're discussing polling agents and 2019 elections. We'll take a break from the studio to follow our correspondent Daniel into the streets, as he sought earlier the views from the streets.
The agents cannot be everywhere. They cannot be in all the polling units. So their agents are their eyes there, and they represent their interests. So they must select somebody that they believe in their judgment and they trust. Because if a candidate does not represent his agent very, if an agent does not represent his candidate very well, well, that's to the minus of the candidate.
Party agents, by right, all what they are saying, all what is happening in the polling booth, they're supposed to have knowledge about. But sometimes they feed their parties wrong information, and thus contributed to the failure or otherwise of their parties.
The agents have a key role to play. The agents are the ones that report back every situation, everything that happened, whether to the situation room or to their principal or to the party. The agents are the ones reporting. Now you find agents doing otherwise because they've been given some money, or people are not, they're not educating people properly, or there are some things that they have done behind the scene which their party did not ask them for.
If the integrity is there, you have to have integrity and to collect the results and report properly according to what, and report right.
Yes, views from the street. Yeah, we're back in the studio with Esther and Jide, still on the issue of polling agents. Yes, respondent, which alluded to some of the things both of you have actually raised. Now, such negligence to critical information and also the strategy that these polling agents will always want to bring on. How have political parties actually been able to listen in, or at least make use of such?
You see, when Nigerians will generally say, oh, democracy, oh, it's this person's fault, oh, nobody wants to look inwards. If the state is deploying resources to an election, for instance, look at the number of political parties we have on the ballot right now.
91.
Critical state resources are going to be deployed. Like I said earlier, people do not make the effort to bring citizens who will observe the process with the dedication of a Spartan. Just observe the process. The anyhow spirit has pervaded even this small duty of manning a. What do? Just wait there and watch. Protect the interests of your candidate and the state. So whenever somebody comes, how does it happen that somebody who is not, how does overvoting occur? There has to be a sort of conspiracy within party agents. That's why they keep quiet. Persons who are not registered in a particular PU, like Jide will say, will come there and vote. How can we register 90 people and suddenly 1,000 voted? How did it happen? Some people kept quiet. It didn't happen at night.
That's so these are the people. The issue you raised earlier about the agent's role to even taking a look at the registers for such units.
They have a duty to inspect.
They already even have the registers given to them.
Before the election day.
INEC chairman has given them the voters register for the election, the 84 million to them on CD. It's for them to go and print and to see if I'm deploying a party agent to this polling unit, how many people are expected to vote at that polling unit. That is the integrity. That is bringing integrity to the. But what we have seen, first, blessing, many of the political parties do not even have the resources to deploy observers, to deploy agents. And it should not be something you have to pay for. It is supposed to be a voluntary exercise by members of the party to say we are stakeholders. Yes. Exactly. We are stakeholders in this electoral process. I'm going to volunteer my time to ensure the integrity of the
but well, for those who want to be paid, because not everyone
nothing stops you from getting paid so that you don't get compromised.
Yes.
And you may not even pay them for the services. You may just pay them a token for transport and feeding. Do you get it? But what we have seen is that I will be shocked to see up to 10 polling agents on February 16th at any polling unit across the line.
Who checks the excesses, or how do we begin to have proper deployment? Because now there are different agents.
No,
who should because sometimes some of those things that they do get overboard with some of the activities.
Well,
how do we checkmate?
The person who pays the ultimate price is the candidate. And of course, the Nigerian political system suffers a degradation. Anytime an agent fails to perform that duty, it affects our entire concept of democracy. Who pays the price? It is we, the Nigerian people. When are we going to grow our democracy? When are we going to be so committed and so involved that say, listen, I am for party A, and I'm going to watch how this process works on behalf of party A. What does that? And so it cripples the system. Provision for polling agents, the law has made provision for it, but it's at the pleasure of the candidates of political parties to decide whether or not they will even deploy. Nobody would disqualify them if they don't deploy an agent. No, even when they don't sign the result sheets, the law says it is still valid.
Even when they don't sign?
Oh, definitely. So it is, well, when a legal provision endures in a favor of a candidate, it is for you to take full advantage of that legal provision. If you don't, the law says the law will not help the indolent. The law only comes to the aid of the vigilant.
Okay, let's at least in trying to wrap up this conversation for today, the importance of that. Yes, we've tried to break it down in the different form. Now, the role that the impact this role is going to give for transparency, aspect of being free, fair, and credible, ultimately on 2019 election. How do we begin to tidy up all this loose ends, especially that they're throwing back the waters back to INEC for them to mop up. Let's see.
No, you see, the point is this. I think I will commend your station for discussing this issue, as I felt the burden to write about it on Wednesday. The same thing I think you are picking up from there to say we need, because you see, all these shouting matches that we are doing on pages of newspaper is not helping the process. What role are you playing to deepen and to ensure that we have a credible election? And this is where the law is on the side of political parties and candidates to deploy somebody they trust. The point is that, are they deploying trustworthy people? They just go pick people from the street, pay them 3,000, 5,000, and say go and stand there. No formal education about their role, what they are supposed to do, how they are supposed to behave, what are the rules and the do's and don'ts. INEC has code of conduct for party agents, they are for observers, they are for all of them. Are they taking advantage of those codes to use it to train their and why is it that you don't find majority of political parties and candidates deploying polling agents? If they believe in the process and that they are in that race to win, you will do everything humanly possible to ensure that somebody is there to represent your interest. The Osho election we are talking about, somebody challenged the collation of that election on September 27 and said, look, our party was shortchanged by 1,000 votes in this local government, and that is when the issue of audit of that process started. But let's assume the guy kept quiet.
Now let's assume we're going to round up this conversation at this point now, because those agents would, I think definitely we must revisit this issue. It's not going to end here, definitely, but I could see the passion which this is, which is a very critical matter that we need to. So for all the political parties, of course, even the electoral umpire as well, to definitely take a look at this. We are just at least to throw the issue out there for the public to see. This is our concern as well. Esther, we'd like to thank you very much for coming on the program. Esther Ozoma, of course, she's a barrister, also an electoral observer. Thank you for coming on the program. Jido Job, Always a delight to have both of you on set. Thank you for coming on the program this evening too. We also appreciate your time. You can join us again tomorrow. Yes, no, not that you can. We want you to join us again to watch another edition of the program on Monday this time around. Nigeria Today returns on Monday, 7:30 in the evening. You can actually watch this edition or any other edition online at youtube.com/NTA News 24 hours. My name is Blessing Abu. Have yourself a pleasant day.